Let's set up for needle punch on the BERNINA 880. While I'm booting the machine, I'd like to familiarize you with some of the features built into the number 45 foot. Below the number 45, you can see markings, numbers 1, 3, 5, and a series of lines. There's a knurled screw on the right-hand side, one that can be used to raise and lower your punch foot when the foot is in the down position. In other words, foot down, you still have some up and down adjustment that you can do to use your foot more effectively with the type of techniques you're working with. I'm really pleased BERNINA took my suggestion to add the numbers to the foot. Now, the full height adjustment all the way up from 3, 4, and up to 5 is possible on the BERNINA 8 series machines. On other rotary style BERNINA machines, consult your guide to see whether you need to leave the white plastic restrictor clamp that comes packaged on the accessory foot on your foot. For our use with the 880, we're going to be removing this clamp. It's very easy to do once you know the little trick, and I'll be showing you that. In addition to the built-in foot height adjustment and restrictor clamp, just briefly, I'd like you to know there's a wonderful opening off on the right side of the foot. This allows putting on and taking off the foot with the needles in place. An easy task without damage to your needles. You have an opening in the front of the foot that looks like a horizontal slot with a notch below it. This is your flat material, thin material, and also in combination your large guide. On the back side of the foot, directly in back, there's a small circular opening. That's your medium guide. And later on, when we're putting materials through those guides, those materials will be threaded into the foot and come out the slot that the needles go through at the very sole of the foot. So linear materials go through the guides and out through the slot in the bottom. Some wonderful built-in features. Okay, in addition to that, we'll be using our 8 series punch plate with its fabulous protective sleeve, the sleeve that does a superb job protecting your rotary hook. In addition to that, we'll be using the punch clamp that came preloaded with long shank style rotary punch needles. I also have an additional clamp here, one that I have set up with the spare needles you'll find in a little bag down inside your kit. When comparing the shank length, the overall length of the needles is the same, but just the shank itself. The shorter shank needles, those needles are used for some of the less willing to punch materials to get some great textural effects. The longer shank needle is a bit more of a gentle needle. So we have a couple of styles appropriate for different things. I've marked my clamps with a little bit of white vinyl tape and red vinyl tape so I can sometimes pick up that clue in the video as a reminder as to which needles I had in place while I was experimenting. It's just a neat reminder too when you go to grab the needles you want, which clamp is which. Faster to see perhaps than noticing the length of the shank. In addition to that, I want you to notice there are 3 set screws in these clamps. Another great thing that BERNINA did, thank you Rotary, I had suggested it would not be fun to lose those tiny little set screws. So the Fab Innovation team at BERNINA comes up with a little metal wrap that disallows you from being able to loosen the set screws so much that you could lose them. That's great. So set screws in the punch clamp, and I am going to provide you with a part number So you can also opt to get an extra clamp for speedy needle style changes. We'll be using our special screwdriver to attach the clamp, remove needles, etc. And that's basically the ingredients you'll be needing for the punch setup. Now let's look at where we are. Right now the security system remembers what I was doing before I turned off the machine. It has me sewing with a single sewing needle, a 1C foot, and a 9mm throat plate. I'd like to remove those items from the machine. Something you can't see on camera is that I have both of my feet safely tucked underneath my chair. Neither foot is anywhere near the foot pedal at this time. Now, I do want to initialize the machine first, so I'm going to bring one foot out temporarily and just initialize. My feet are now back safely under my chair. I'm going to use the button on the lower left of the head to raise the 1C foot. I'm now going to remove the 1C foot, knowing I'm safe doing that because my feet are not near that pedal. I'm going to also want to remove this needle. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the thread out of the needle itself and off to the side, reaching over to clip my thread where it enters the sewing machine. Since the foot had been fully raised, I can now just simply pull that upper thread to properly remove it from the machine. Feet tucked safely under the chair, using my special screwdriver, holding the needle, twirling the screwdriver toward myself, lowering and removing the needle, setting it safely aside. Removing the 9mm plate. Pressing on the back right corner. The only thing I have not removed from my sewing setup is the bobbin. I'm going to alert the machine now as to what it is I'm up to. I'm going to be doing needle punch. Second icon down on the left, the needle. Press it, security screen, select the punch clamp. How is it I know that's the punch clamp? Well, yes, it has 3 needles. But then again, so does the triple sewing needle. Please note, the sewing needle shows little holes in the needles for threading. But on the punch clamp, the punch needles do not have those holes. Instead, you see 3 little white dots noting the 3 set screws that we'll be adjusting to change needles in our 1 clamp later on. So green ribbon, white check mark, punch clamp selected, it's outlined in white. Gold ribbon and a star. Well, that's a prompt. My security is saying, hey, the punch plate, that's what goes with the punch clamp. Press once to select it. Green ribbon, check mark, white outline. No need to touch anything else on that screen. Coming down to where it's indicating my accessory foot selection, the 1C, I'm pressing that, and look, another prompt, a nice big one. Number 45, the punch foot, gold square, white star. Much easier than scrolling through to find the 45 foot. Take the prompt, and the machine auto scrolls, your security does, to show you that you have now outlined number 45 foot in white, you have a green ribbon and a white check mark, you're good to go. Exit this screen without having to touch that icon. It's all set. Just exit with the X in the upper right. Now we have 4 of the 5 things done that need to be accomplished. In our security, we have physically top down in the real world of installing these parts. We have the punch clamp, 45 punch foot, punch plate, and the dogs are illuminated in yellow, showing me that they have automatically dropped. Wonderful. The only thing left to do is going to be to remove that bobbin. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Open up the bobbin door, keeping your hands aside, allowing a moment for the bobbin to swing out. Touching the clasp on the right-hand side, remove the bobbin. I'm going to unspool it a little. This is just a simple habit that I engage in. I'm going to clip my thread. So instead of just yanking the thread out of the bobbin area in the opposite direction where it would be coming out while sewing, I'm going to grab the shorter end here and simply pull out that thread in the direction it would come while sewing. Maybe that's an old habit from my CB bobbins, but probably still a good one. Fingers out of the way, slowly closing up the hatch door. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have everything ready. Punch clamp, 45 foot, punch plate, dogs down, bobbin out. Everything's ready in security, but the items in security I need to install still here. So I'm going to go ahead and put my punch plate in, making sure it's smooth. Then I'm going to go ahead, for those of you that have never used your accessory before and still have that little white restrictor clamp in place, let's go ahead and simply attach the foot without the needles at this point, pressing down on the latch and back just as you would with any presser foot. Using not just one fingertip, but both pointers, I'm going to place one on the right side of this knurled screw and another one in the back. This can be a little bit tight the first time you try to spin that to the right, but once you begin to do that, it's very easy. Normally when I'm sewing, I'm doing it this way. I'll do it from the back so you can see the foot coming down. Just kind of give that a spin until it feels like it's not going anymore. The foot has dropped. I'm going to remove the foot, and now you can see there's vertical space along this metal shaft where the little restrictor clamp is, making it much easier to take, get a hold of, it is still a little bit wiggly, and pop that little C-clamp out. There we go. So when you're popping this out, please don't do it on top of the dogs and drop it down in there. Do it somewhere where you're contained and you're not going to send it flying off the table the first time. So C-clamp is going to be put away in, I suggest, the little bag that has your spare short shank needle style, a secure place. While the foot is off, you can see that in lowering it, the foot height adjustment is down somewhere around 1. And if you push that knurled screw back away from you, you can raise that up to about the number 3. A good middle of the road starting place for our techniques today. So rather than put that foot right back on, it's a little bit easier to have some free access. Feet tucked under my chair, I'm going to put my clamp with my long shank punch needles, my gentle needles, up onto the machine. Flat side of the needle toward the back, just as you would with any sewing needle. Please make sure that that screw was loose enough that this is up as high as it can go. You can begin to tighten it with your fingers, but always use the special screwdriver to give it that final firm extra twist that not only secures the clamp into the machine, but it also properly seats the angle of the clamp so that those 3 needles are going to enter the 3 holes in the corresponding punch plate perfectly. So 9mm plate is out, punch plate is in. All that's left is to install the 45-foot minus restrictor clamp. Using that nice open doorway on the side, gently slowly. You can tilt the foot downward a little bit, and sliding the foot over toward the right, those needles can enter that little side door, lifting it up as high as it goes, firmly pushing down the latch in back. Well, I should be good to go, but let's double check a couple things. I do want you to set your slide control for a little bit under halfway to begin with, and I want you to verify with the icon on screen that needle up is engaged. Needle down looks this way. It's an intermittent line with the needle going below it. You want that needle up with the point of the needle touching a horizontal line. So that's it. I know I've double checked my 5 things both in security and physically. Punch clamp, punch foot, punch plate, dogs down, bobbins out. I'm good to go. Let's get ready for our needle punch adventure.